Hey, footy fans, welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today I have a superstar guest on the show who's won 4 grand finals. He's a Parramatta legend. He's played for New South Wales, the Kangaroos. He's done it all. It's the one and only Eric Grothe. How are you, man?
Good, Dave. How are you? Thanks for having me, mate.
Oh, mate, it's really awesome to have you on the show. Big grin on the face. I've got a lot of memories of you playing in the Winfield Cup from all the videos I had as a child. I
Oh,
collected a
wow.
lot of those
Okay.
Winfield Cup highlights videos, which is kind of my learning for rugby league as a child. So, and you
Oh,
featured
cool.
on
Okay.
today.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So, how have you been, man? What are you up to these days with yourself?
I've been really well, thanks, mate. Just doing some normal stuff, just working, doing a marquee hire business with Eric Grothe Jr.
Lovely.
Just doing that on the weekends when we get a call for it. And other than that, I drive a truck just to pick up some marble and granite slabs for an old
Yeah.
schoolmate of mine 3 days a week. So it all works in pretty well. And plus, I'm doing the music thing as well on the weekend. So, everything's sort of happening.
Yeah, man. You and your son both pretty awesome with the music. Are you a guitarist? Is that your main instrument?
Sort of rhythm guitar, but I'm
Yeah.
surrounded with musicians, which makes my job a lot easier. But originally we're in the band with my two boys, Eric and Daniel. 3 Day Growth.
Lovely.
That was just about 20 years ago now, more. But that's how it sort of started, and they did their own thing, got their own band going,
Yeah.
and I did the same after that. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think I've got the Shinobi album from way back kicking around somewhere that Eric put out years ago. Against the Brave. That's my favorite song, man. That's
Oh
awesome.
wow, okay, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Got it on my running playlist still. It gets me through marathons and everything. It's a great song.
Oh, okay, cool, beautiful.
Oh, mate. Okay, so let's rewind the clock. Eric Growth, as a young fella, what was life like for you? And and living as your family life, and then how did rugby league come into the fray as a young fella?
Yeah, look, my parents were German. They came over, I think, just before the war started. They came over here, and and then they settled here in Liverpool, and then I played a bit of soccer first when I was 8, 9 years old. I played a bit of soccer, and then uh, I played a trial of. I'm not sure how it started to play rugby league, but I was about 9, I think it was. I played a trial match, and Steve Ella was in the same team as me, Mount
Wow.
Pritchard, um, and he ended up being a great friend, and we sort of played together all the way through. But he was a part of that team, and and then I just started playing rugby league, and from 9, 10 years onwards, Mum and Dad sort of didn't really get into the league earlier on. Mum always Moddy called me and said that did they hit you too hard? Did they tackle you too hard? You okay? All that sort of stuff, and so she didn't like um, the toughness of it and all that sort of stuff. But Dad, as I got older and stuff, they started liking it. And when I got graded for Parramatta, they took a renewed interest in it as well. And and it just sort of started from there.
That's amazing. So was it something you were quite passionate about when you were young? Like you really wanted to play, or was it just kind of something you fell into because you had Steve there as well?
Um, I think I just fell into it initially, and then I became a St George fanatic, a St
Okay.
George fan, and Billy Smith and all those boys were playing. Roy Ferguson and some great players. And just the club that I played with, East Mount Pritchard, was all red with a white V. So we
Yep.
naturally levitated to the St George colours. So
Okay.
and I was a mad St George supporter, and as it sort of rolled on from there, I started really loving the game and wanted to be sort of at least watching those sort of guys run around. I wanted to get somewhere near that.
Absolutely. Just on that, what was the style of the game back in those days? Was that the whole 4 tackles or unlimited tackles back then?
Oh God, yeah, no, four tackles, no, not only 4 tackles, I think it was. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Those are good times. And was it quite brutal? Like, because it kind of always was, but especially through the 70s, the New South Wales Rugby League was pretty full on. I've had Mark Graham on, and he was just like, yeah, it was brutal. But like, what was it like sort of watching it a little bit further
Uh,
back?
yeah, watching it, I didn't really sort of look at it too much as being brutal when I was watching St George play and stuff like that. I mean, it looked like a tough game, but I never
Yeah.
sort of related to the toughness of it. I just sort of wanted to play, but
Okay.
as I went through grade, yeah, it became well. I mean, I was on the wing. It wasn't brutal on the wing. Every now and then they wanted the winger to run in and take it up here and there, but I tried not to do that as much as I could.
Fair enough. I never enjoyed taking the hit ups, mate. No way.
Yeah, 100%.
So okay, so saying that, what was it about the game that kept you coming back? You didn't necessarily like the contact, but what was it that you did love?
The camaraderie, and the lower grades of Parramatta were very successful, and I sort of jumped into a team that was had so many great players that were coming through, and so the success it was happening, and we enjoyed ourselves after the game and stuff like that. So it was a number of things. Um, Success breeds success, I guess, and makes you want to hang around that. So I was lucky that
Yes,
that was happening from the start.
absolutely. So would you say you were sort of naturally talented coming through, or do you have to work extra hard for it, or like did making rep sides come quite easy for you?
It came fairly natural to me. I could always run. I was always a fast runner, and did
Okay.
the athletics carnivals as I was coming through school, through the grades and stuff. So it was fairly natural for me. As you get to grade, obviously you got to train and do all the things that everyone else is doing. So that sort of helped.
Okay. So where did that rep sort of journey start for you? Like who were you playing for, and what were the rep sides that you were making before you got to first grade?
Um, well, going back to school, I made the Liverpool area, which is not far from where I live now. And Steve Ella was in that team as well. And that
Okay.
was, I think it was 15, 16. And then the club games I was playing for Eastmount Pritchard, we were winning. We won 6 premierships in a row there. And when I got to 17, 18, Ron Fernley, Terry Fernley's brother, who was the first grade coach, Terry Fernley at Parramatta, and Ron Fernley used to come and watch the juniors, and he got Steve Ella and myself to sit on the bench for the under 23s in those days. That was
Okay.
in the semi-finals, and they were short on some players, so we just sat on the bench, Stephen
Okay.
and I, and I remember the first particular game, the semi-final against Balmain, I think it was, Eastern Suburbs, and
Yep.
we had an injury. The winger came off pretty early, so he threw me on, and things just
Yep.
clicked from there. And Steve he got a go as well. And from that on, we played the major semi final after that, and then the grand final in the under 23. So yeah, it all sort of came yeah naturally.
Brilliant, man. So that's when, obviously, later on, you signed with Parramatta for the 1979 season. So what was the journey? How did you get that contract? How did it all happen? And just how scary was that?
Um, yeah, I didn't think I was really ready to. I remember Terry Fernley came to me. We were playing a trial match against Cronulla in 1979, beginning of the year, and he came over and he said, "Are you ready? Are you ready for first grade?" And I said no straight away,
Okay.
and he said, "We'll see how the week goes. Come and train with us, and we'll go from there." And yeah, as it turned out, they were very accepting and a great team, and I just I felt really comfortable with it, and just from that point played a couple of trial matches, 79, and I ended up starting in reserve grade for that
Okay.
year. And then 1980 was sort of a few games in first grade. Uh, I hurt my knee, and I know that was 81. Sorry. I 80 was a variation of first grade and reserve grade, but mainly reserve grade. And then
Okay.
81, when Jack Gibson came to the club, I became a regular first grader.
You did indeed. So, like, how big was that stepping up to first grade? You've got Jack Gibson arriving at the club. And I read online, and we had a chat about this, off the podcast. You actually struggled like with your mental side of things during your career. Was that something that affected you right from the beginning, or was that something that more grew over time? Like as a young guy stepping up to first grade, was that something that you had to cope with at the time?
Yeah, look, I had thinking back. I had my. Everyone has their natural fear for the game. You've got butterflies, and there's something wrong if you haven't got butterflies or you're nervous before a game. But no, initially I was fine. It was as I got older, my self-esteem started going for whatever reasons, and
Okay.
yeah, it just became a little bit harder for me after 83, 84. I started really struggling when I was 25, 25, 24, 25, 26. Yeah, it became a real mental game for me, and I didn't see myself as other people saw me, and
Okay.
yeah, I just lacked that, yeah, that self-esteem, and along that with, the attitude.
Okay. So, like, what were some of those hurdles that you had to face? You know, like you get recognised out in public. You've got pressure of winning grand finals. You've got a coach. You've got to answer to, and you've got to be perceived as a person who's got their shit together. Essentially, was that hard to cope with?
It is a bit because you're wearing two jackets, and when you're saying that I had to sort of make out that I was handling it, and in front of people that I was tough enough, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, behind the scenes, it was a real mental battle. I was struggling a fair bit with all that.
Okay.
So some days I felt fine, the other days I didn't. Yeah, and it just swelled on from there.
Okay. And just one more question on that. Was there ever any time at all where you just felt like giving it all away, or did that love for rugby league just keep you hanging in there for the remainder of your career?
Yeah, the last couple of years, 88, 89, 87, 88, 89, I really struggled mentally. I had some injuries as well too that didn't help the situation. So from 87, 88, yeah, I was sort of half looking for an excuse, and it came along at the beginning of 89 when Mick Cronin was appointed coach, and I wish I'd stayed on. Mentally, it was tough enough to beat the injuries that I had, and my ability to come back from injuries. I should have
Okay.
done a lot more things. So yeah, that for me it was disappointing. I didn't play under Mick, and yeah. So from, yes, 88, 89, and then at the beginning of I played a couple of trial matches in 89, and my knee was struggling anyway, but mentally I just had enough. And so I saw, after one of the trial matches, I went and saw Dennis Fitzgerald. I think it was on the Monday night leading up to the first premiership game. I just said, mate, I've had enough. I wanted to get out, and that was it. He didn't fight it or anything like that. I just mentally had
Yeah.
a deep breath, and that was all over for me.
So that quite a relief at that moment. Just feels like the monkey off your back, all the pressure's relieved,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, there
far
was,
out.
yeah, definitely a big relief. And then, and then a few months later, it's you start thinking about, I should have done things differently and all that sort of stuff. So
Okay. Oh, well, thanks for sharing that, man. I know it's pretty touchy stuff for a lot of people, so I just appreciate that, man. So going back to your first year of first grade, like what's it like? You get handed your first grade jersey and you're running it out, and there's the crowd there, and you've got this opposition. They want to come out and steamroll the new guy. Is that a cool experience? Like when you look back at, when you like those first initial stages of playing first grade.
yeah, I mean, I didn't have any issues then, and I was really keen to get out there, get amongst it, and being around such great players, like um, the late '70s and 80 and 81, we had some great players. Ronnie Hilditch and Jeff Gerard and Johnny
Oh, Jeff
Cole,
Gerard.
the Solkowitz brothers. They were just great players. Johnny Moran, Phil Mann. Yeah, look, just a great side. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that was pretty special in itself. And Terry Fernley, I just had a deep respect for Terry Fernley, and he thought that I had some ability, so he really trusted me. And yeah, going out there was, if we weren't playing West at Lidcombe Oval on a Sunday afternoon, I was pretty happy because that was a day out there.
And then that's when Jack Gibson arrived in 81, and the club saw immediate success. You're very young in your career. The master coach arrives. Now, what are your memories of that moment when Jack Gibson walks into the club and you're all on notice? You really got to up your game.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when we first heard that they signed Jack Gibson, and he had a reputation in those days. He was a pretty tough customer, and I remember thinking my first thoughts were, I sort of sneak around, try and bludge a little bit here and there, and wouldn't be able to do that with Jack. Jack sort of knows who's bludging and who's not. So I knew I had to pick up my game a fair bit, and he picked me in first grade in 81. The first trial match we had a pre-season competition in those days called the Craven Mile Cup, I think it was called.
Okay.
And yeah, we made the final against Eastern Suburbs, I think it was, and I broke my wrist, and so I couldn't play for about 8 weeks or so, 8-9 weeks, and I thought I'll lose my place here, and the guys were playing really well, and we were up in the top 4, top 5, and when my wrist was okay, I thought I'll start back in 23s or reserve grade or whatever, but he put me straight into first grade, and I remember thinking, God, he's got a lot of, he's showing a lot of respect to me, and I got to show the respect back, for him to, after I was on the sideline for so long, he has a belief in me, and I went, wow, that's fantastic. So I started in first grade when I came back, and and we ended up winning that year, and we had a good year.
Absolutely, you did. It all came together for you in 81. And before we get to that grand final, you got selected for New South Wales, scoring 2 tries on debut. Like, how massive is it getting called up to play Origin, bagging a double in front of 25,000 people at Lang Park, no less?
Yeah, no, that was very special. In that, we didn't really know what the state of Origin was about. We knew the concept, and we knew it was going to be a new and different thing, but well, for me, I can only talk for myself. I mean, we got picked on the Sunday after the round of rugby league, and then on Monday morning we had a medical, and then Monday afternoon we went up to Queensland and we played the game on the Tuesday night. So that we only had a couple of training sessions and stuff, and I'm not sure whether they stayed in camp for a week or whatever, but it was pretty exciting. I was playing against these blokes, Big Terry Fay and from South Sydney, and all the Peter Tunks and all those sort of guys. And now I'm playing with them, and I was tickled pink with being picked in the team, and that was an experience, mate. The 25,000 people at Lang Park is like 50, 60,000 people. It's just the audio was the level in my ears. So my ears couldn't handle it, cracked, and every time they scored, they would let this cannon go at the end of the field. They'd blow this cannon. Yeah. When it first went off, I went, God, it's just my ears couldn't handle it. It's just a real strange experience. We also had to go down Caxton Street. Obviously, it's Caxton, Caxton.
Yeah, the Caxton. That's that hotel or something, isn't it, down there?
But whatever that road's called in the bus, and we saw everyone was going crazy, hanging out of the pubs and all full of it. And when we got to the game, we had to walk through a bar to get to the dressing room, and on the way out back to the to kick off, we had to go through that bar, and people have been there since 4 o'clock. So we had to walk through this bar that was just totally Queensland fans, and they were full of it, and they just absolutely give it to us. And I couldn't believe it. We were walking through this bar. They had to get everyone out of the way so we could walk through and get onto the field and play the game. And they just they hammered us. They just totally give it to us, and so that and then as the game, so we started pretty well early, 15-0 in front, scored a couple of tries. I had Peter Sterling, Mick Cronin with us, and Ray Price, so we had the Parramatta connection there.
Wow.
And then I got slapped by Chris Close. He slapped me in the and at that point there, I really knew what that game meant to them. I couldn't believe it that he was that concerned about getting me off the tackle player, and it was just quite that was an awakening for me.
That's incredible, man. Yeah, was Origin like you said? It wasn't. You didn't necessarily know too much about it when you got selected. I'm guessing you didn't take very long to learn that it was a very physical, and a real pinnacle part of the Australian Rugby League. Like as a Kiwi, we don't have anything like that. But as an
Yeah,
Australian, is that something that the players dream of doing?
yeah, it's become it's probably taken over a little bit in regards to it. When I was playing, you'd play city and country, and if you that was like a possibles and probables, and if you got picked out of that, you'd play in the state team, and if you played well enough in the state team playing against Queensland, then you got picked in the test in the Australian
Yes.
test team. Where it's all asked about now, and
Yeah.
so it's for that, not for that reason alone, but generally the state of origin is so big now. It's just to get picked in the state of origin team. I think it's a little bit like nothing else matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see more test matches though. It kind of
100%.
frustrates me as a Kiwi that we don't even have a schedule yet, for the end of the
Yeah,
season. It's
it's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's all. It's just totally changed. It used to be
Yeah,
in sequence. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'd love to see the Anzac Test back. That's the one thing I really, really would love to see back on the calendar. Man, how about yourself?
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean they were playing against the Kiwis was always really tough, and
Yeah,
yeah, that would be great to get that back. And Kangaroo tours obviously would be hard to sort of do these days. I guess with the way the game's played and how tough it is to play game upon game upon game.
yeah.
But yeah, all Kangaroo tours were just something else.
Yes, man. So, while we're still on Origin, 1985, you played in all three Origin matches, and you finally tasted a series win, taking out game one and two. Describe the moment. The siren goes off. You realise you've won the battle against Queensland. Your teammates embrace. Is that like the sweetest feeling, winning an Origin series?
Yeah, it was very sweet. Yeah, by that time, by 1985, we'd all realised how important this game was and how big it was growing. So for us, and they smacked us a few times over, leading up to that, 82,
Yeah.
83, 84. They won those series, and they were just getting this arrogance about them, and it was really good to get back. We had a great team, and to get back at them and win that was, it was very special. It was a great time.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. And so, getting back to your Parramatta days, you qualified for the grand final against Newtown in 1981. So what do you remember about the build up to the big game? How did you prepare for it? You played in front of 57,000 people at the Sydney Football Stadium, and you've never won a grand final, and Newtown hadn't won one for a long time. How much pressure is there going on leading into that grand final?
Um, yeah, I remember not feeling all that much pressure. I remember how Jack Gibson used to coach and how he used to, because in the late 70s, Parramatta had made the grand final a couple of times, and
Okay,
one of the games they played, before they had a ticker tape parade in the main street of Parramatta,
right.
and the talk was that we might be doing that, and Jack Gibson straight away said, no way, we're not doing that. We're not putting any extra pressure on us. I remember the week leading up to the grand final was obviously different in, psychologically. We knew what we were playing. We're playing a big game, but training was no different. It was just, we had Jack Gibson's philosophy was that we had to do the same things in this game as we did in the first round of the season.
Okay,
You got to do, you got to tackle, you got to score more points and all that sort of stuff. And he just very basically simplified everything. And at one stage through that week, at one stage it was like it wasn't a lead up to a grand final. It wasn't that hype that we all thought
really?
might be. Everyone
Oh,
was
yeah.
really calm, and I put that down to Jack Gibson completely,
Okay.
because he just kept us all very basic and standard. The football fields, the one we're training on now is the same size as the one we're playing the grand final on Saturday or the Sunday. Just very, yeah, just he tuned everything down, or it really made a difference.
Okay. So did that help for like the actual moment when you ran out did you feel any of those jitters like at the start of the game where you might fumble the ball, or did you just feel quite calm and prepared for that match?
Yeah, just nervous, just a normal nervousness.
Okay.
Yeah, and the idea of what this meant for the area and stuff, but just the normal nerves, but not to the point where it completely overtook anyone. And we were getting beaten by at the half time, but there was no panic. I remember going into the dressing room at half time and expecting one of these fantastic speeches or this wisdom that comes from Jack. And we hardly saw him in the dressing room. We all sort of sat around. He came, put his head in, and we were all sitting down and having a drink. And he put his head around the corner and he said, "I can't say anything now. I've said it all through the year. It's up to you guys." And he walked out. Everyone's waiting for
Thanks,
this great
coach.
speech. So it worked, because we all had to look at each other and we all had to talk ourselves and work. And Steve Edge was such a great captain. He took
Yeah.
control, and the senior players, and we did it for with ourselves. We did it for ourselves in that regard. There was no main big speech coming from Jack, and I remember that we were getting beat, and there was no panic. And as the game turned out, we sort of got in front, and we stayed in front.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you got over the top of them. Um, and like Brett Kenny scores a double. The fans are going crazy. You've won your first premiership. When you look back, is it special to be a part of not just the Parramatta premiership, but the first premiership? The one the hardcore fans that stick with you through thick and thin, they'll know and enjoy and remember that one forever. Like, yeah,
Yeah, no, it was very special for that alone. Yeah, it was just amazing, and to come back to be driving in, to be in the bus coming down Parramatta Road towards Parramatta Stadium, and seeing the sea of people there, just all around the club, just this sea of people, and we had to get out of the bus and jump on this semi trailer, just a flat top, and
yeah,
people just went crazy. It was mad. It was like a rock concert, It was just, and we were the band, It was just
yeah.
amazing. And then they had to guide us up to the auditorium upstairs of the club. In those days, it was just they had a lift, but it was pretty slow. But you had to walk up these stairs, and
Okay.
the whole 5 floors was just lined with people, and it was just amazing. And then we got into the auditorium, and then we got introduced and all the rest of it. And then, just the place went crazy. It was just the best 24 hours ever.
I mean, how long did the party last for, and how sore was your head?
Yeah, pretty sore head. It lasted for a few days. We did the 24-hour thing, and then I think a few people went back. A few of the players went back, had a sleep, and then we got back together somewhere in a pub in Parramatta and continued on for another couple of days.
As you do, as you do. Oh, mate, that's fantastic. Now, as I said, you actually played Newtown in that final. It was just like they were only axed from the competition 1 year later after playing in the grand final due to, financial hardship. Um, how hard is it to see a club that's like actually just seen some success, then shown the door from the New South Wales Rugby League? Was that a tough thing, even being at another club, to see?
Yeah, it was very strange, very strange. I mean, they did so well to get where they got, They had Warren Ryan was a great coach, and yeah, that was strange to see him fall from grace like that. And I mean, who knows if they stayed around, they could have built on more than what they had, and they could have been like Manly was to us, the great rivals in that case.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, didn't gather any feet, and they had to disappear, unfortunately. But yeah, very strange to have to play a grand final, and then all of a sudden they're not there.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, on that, what are your thoughts on expansion? Like they're looking at expanding the NRL. Would you rather the NRL bring back clubs like Newtown or North Sydney Bears, or do we go with brand new identities in the NRL? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm one for tradition. It'd be nice just to keep it all the way it was. Newtown.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, look, and I understand the expansion part of it too. It's being beamed in all the lounge rooms. There's so many cameras that are beaming it into all the houses, and it's become such a big thing. So I understand the expansion. Uh, Keeping it on the east side of, of Australia, I probably would rather that rather than
Yep.
Perth and all that sort of stuff. But North Sydney, it'd be great to have them back, and
Yeah.
Newtown and all those sort of guys. But and then they talk about there's just not enough talent to go around, but there's got to be talent that goes to Perth as well. And I know
Yeah.
there's those areas, Melbourne and all that sort of stuff, that have their own junior league now, so they've got that happening, and all those players coming through as well. So traditionally I would like to have it the way it was, but I know that the expansion, as time goes, things change.
Absolutely, it does, man. And so, going back to 1982, the Winfield Cup was born. Parramatta become the first minor premiers of the newly named comp, and you had some stunning victories, including a 54-3 thrashing of Canberra. You got 4 tries. Sterlo got 3. The Crow got 3. Do you remember that match? How fun was it destroying Canberra, especially only 3-point tries back then? That's a lot of tries.
Um, Yeah, I remember we played them at because Cumberland Oval got burnt down. We played them at Belmore. Belmore was our home for the next 3 or 4 years,
Okay.
and yeah, they just come into the competition. They were a bit light on players and stuff like that. They did really well considering, and yeah, we got them on a good day, and we had a full side in, and it just sort of opened up. Yeah, they had some big forwards. David Grant was a big forward, and they always had big forwards, and yeah, I remember that day. It was a nice warm day at Belmore, and everything just clicked. Guys like Brett Kenny and Sterlo just ran amok, and just did their thing. Everyone just sort of followed from that.
Absolutely, man. It must be those are those games that you must really enjoy when you're thrashing someone, but it's just fun, like as opposed to just an intense, brutal, close game. You must enjoy those ones as a winger where you score a few tries and just having a good
Oh
time
yeah,
with the boys.
yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's a better day out than sort of just winning 12-11 or something like that and getting bashed like you do at Lidcombe Oval when you played Western Suburbs on a Sunday afternoon. That was a terrible day out. I mean, yeah, winning games easily was obviously a little bit of a holiday here and there, but yeah, there was plenty of tough games ahead.
I bet there was, man. It must have helped with your recovery too, like having a nice, easy victory like that. Surely.
Yeah, well, it can do, and sometimes people the games are not meant to be tough, or you're meant to win easily. That's when you can do sort of serious injuries, I guess, and we were pretty lucky that didn't happen. But yeah, it's important just to approach the game like you're playing anyone, or you're gonna have a tough game, and that's how we approached it.
Okay, man. And so, what point of the season did you think, shit, I think we're on track to go back to back here? Was there ever a moment where you thought we're definitely on track to go deep into the playoffs, if not go all the way?
Yeah, that's sort of just when we sort of stayed in the top two or top three, I think, most of the year. Um, yeah, and just as we were winning, we just gained this confidence. Everyone individually had this confidence about them, and the confidence of playing with the players that were there. And so yeah, the that I always had the feeling personally myself that we were capable of doing it at least quarter of the way through the competition. When we get a sniff of it again, we could do it again.
Brilliant, brilliant. So you were right. You got to the finals, but then there was a bit of a snag where you went up against your old foe Manly, and they gave you a hide in 20-0. Was that a bit of a shock to the system, or and what was the feeling among the player group after that shock defeat?
We let them win. No, I'm joking. No, it was they played really well, and we weren't switched on. And when you think back on those moments, it's probably a good thing. We probably needed to shake up because we were winning the season pretty well, and we probably
Yep.
had this confidence about us that needed to be stepped down a little bit. And that game woke us up a bit. And then the next couple of weeks, we decided we got to really do the right things here to get back into the game and back into the grand final, and it worked out.
It did indeed, because in that game, I think Phil Blake ran amok. He did his chip and chase sort of special. trick shot that he had, and it came off
Yeah,
a couple of
yeah,
times. He's a great player, I feel, Blake.
yeah. Absolutely, great player.
Yeah. So you responded in dramatic fashion, flogging Eastern Suburbs 33-0. Yourself and the Crow got doubles, and you're marching on into the grand final with a rematch against Manly. How good? What were the thoughts after the big win and going into to face Manly in the grand final?
Yeah, we had a lot of confidence after the Eastern Suburbs game. Remember that was in the mud, and we absolutely gave it to them. And yeah, that gave us the confidence we needed. That week leading up to that game, we realised that we got beat by Manly the week before, and we got to wake up to ourselves. And then we did that by the way we played against the Eastern Suburbs, and then we were ready for the grand final, and we knew that they wouldn't do the same thing to us this time.
Okay, very good. And so, what was the lead up like to that grand final? Did you feel pressure this time to go back to back, or were you just like, no, we've got that confidence, we're playing well, we think we can do the job?
That's always there in the back of your head. Yeah, that's and again with the way Jack Gibson coached, he kept things very, very basic and very simplistic, and we could just concentrate on the what we had to do, the same things again as we did in the first game of the first round at the beginning of the year, and so it's the same again, but yeah, no, I remember just the calmness. Everyone sort of knew their job, and we just had to get out there and mentally be there.
Okay, now you didn't have obviously social media back then, but what was it like with all the newspapers and I don't know, just the rugby league weeks or whatever was out? Was there any of that sort of thing? Like that you'd read the paper or anything like that that might have maybe you think overthink things or what was the media like back in the day?
Yeah, I remember throughout the week. Sorry about my voice, but throughout the week, yeah, Jack. I remember Jack saying, "Don't buy any newspapers. Don't read the newspapers this week leading up to the grand. Just read, buy them, but then read them after the grand final." And that's what pretty much everyone did. We didn't. Yeah, I didn't check out the newspaper, and yeah, so it was. Yeah, we just had this quiet, yeah, confidence about us, and reading the papers after the game and stuff like that. And, that week after we finished drinking, of course, we yeah, it's funny looking back at something that's been, and then
Yeah,
you look at the lead up to it. It's quite strange reading some of the stuff.
that absolutely would be. And then you went into the grand final. It was all one-way traffic, 21-8 victory, and you scored a try, contributing to a second consecutive premiership. How sweet is it scoring and getting the grand final back to back? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, look, it was very special. I mean, and the players that were inside me created that the opportunity for me to score on that particular game, and I ended up. Graham Moody was the fullback, and he was one of my favourite players as I was growing up as well. And people say, "Oh, you beat Graham Moody," but all I really did was just braced for the hit, and I rolled over and scored. But all the lead up work was done by Brett Kenny, Steve Eller, and those guys, and I got Graham Moody he was retiring at the end of that year too, so I got him at a good time to be able to do something like that. Because if I got him in his prime, I would have ended up in the second row of the grandstand somewhere. Because he was just an unbelievable player, and I was lucky. It all sort of just fell into place, and yeah, all the lead up work was done. I just had to sort of run to the corner.
Oh, mate, it was a fantastic try. And also, after the grand final, your form in 1982 obviously led to your selection for the Kangaroos, where you played 8 tests over the next few seasons, scoring 10 tries, scoring actually a try in all 8 tests, and earning your name in Australian Rugby League history by being a part of the Invincibles. So, what did it mean to you to be selected for Australia and to get your first jumper and make your test debut?
Yeah, very special. Again, it goes back to when I was growing up, we used to get those packets of bubble gum with the cards in there with
Oh, mate,
an extra shot of the
they're
player,
the
and
best.
I used to swap them, with friends at school and stuff like that. I'd swap a Rod Reddy for a Craig Young or something like that,
Oh, good.
and And I remember being picked, and I was so elated, and there was, I think, 7 of us, the Parramatta team, that made it, and so it was like, I was going away with the family, and I remember being on the plane, and we're going over. I'm sitting next to Ian Schubert,
Wow.
Rod Reddy was there, Craig Young, Chris Anderson, and I used to swap their bubblegum cards, and here I am playing cards with them and having a few drinks with them, and it was just
Crazy.
just a moment, and it was just fantastic. And I ended up rooming with Ian Schubert, and he taught me everything I know. He's just an amazing guy, good bloke, and they were all just fantastic guys, and we had a lot of good success on that tour.
Mate, those rugby league cards have got a lot to answer for. That's what got me into rugby league. I swapped
No,
like a
okay,
T-shirt for a 1995 Winfield Cup tribute set of cards, and
wow,
I had thousands of them over the next year, all over my walls and ceiling and everything in my bedroom.
yeah,
You
okay,
know, rugby league
yeah,
week posters, you name it, I had it, and that's how it all started for me as a young fella. Those
yeah, it's
bloody
awesome.
cards. Oh, mate. So, you're playing alongside the likes of, Wally Lewis, Mal Meninga, Gene Miles, Paul Vorton, Queenslanders, obviously legends. So this is the opportunity to play alongside them instead of having to tackle Big Mel in full flight. Is that a wonderful experience to be on the same side as these guys?
Yeah, look, 100%. I mean, I had some great players inside me at Parramatta, and nothing changed when I made the Australian team there in the Kangaroo tour. There was, yeah, as you said, Gene Miles and Mal Meninga and Wally Lewis. It was just
Yeah,
unbelievable. It was an amazing experience, and a lot of those guys had went on the '78 Kangaroo tour, so they knew what to expect, and they told us younger guys, it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard. Um, yeah, it was just amazing, and the opportunities just arose all over the place. Steve Rogers too was one of my favourite players.
mate,
He was in the
legend.
centres as well, and just absolutely amazing. And the opportunities just arose everywhere, and all I had to do was really back up, and things happened.
Well, it's pretty hard not to get points on the end of that back line, right? It's,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
crazy good. Pretty cool. You've actually got that in common with Steve Rogers. You're both father and son played NRL, and that's pretty incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very proud of that, and proud of what Eric Junior did, and yeah, absolutely. There's not it hasn't happened all that much, so yeah,
Yeah,
very lucky.
amazing. So you went to play Great Britain on the 1982 Ashes series. You scored a try on debut and gave the Brits a 40-4 flogging. Is that pretty much the dream debut for Australia that anyone could hope for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, yeah, you knew it was going to be a tough game. The ground, the suburban ground, was absolutely packed, and they just, the crowds over there are fantastic. They sing, and it's just a
Yeah,
different atmosphere
it's
altogether. And it's all packed in, and it's just amazing. And they picked a pretty oldish team apparently, and we obviously didn't know what to expect. The players that played against them in '78 knew, so they
okay.
passed down different things that we needed to know. But yeah, in the end, we just had too much for them. It was our brand of football was just pretty much way ahead on what they were used to. And yeah, we just as I said, the players that were there, we just ran amok in that. But it was tough for the first half hour. There wasn't much in
Yeah.
it, and then we just sort of broke loose a bit.
Okay, okay. So, what was their style like compared to yours? Because you obviously had a very flamboyant side, and you had your likes of Mal Meninga who could run through anybody. But what were the Brits like with their style of play? Just more because they've got even in the Super League now, it's quite open versus the NRL. Whereas
Yeah, it
maybe
seems to
back
be,
in that
doesn't
day,
it?
it might have been a bit different.
Yeah, they didn't have the urgency that we had in the play the ball. We played the ball quicker. That was
Okay,
noticeable pretty much straight away. And they had some big fellas, big older fellas that weren't as fit as they probably should have been.
okay,
So we had a lot of fitness over them. In saying that, I was against the winger, Des Drummond, who was a pretty amazing player, and
right.
um, he could really tackle. He had this ability to launch himself at you with his shoulder and cut you in half. Unfortunately, he didn't get me, but he got a few of the players. And but yeah, it was like what stood out for me was the play the ball. We were a lot quicker there, and our defence was more like hunting in packs, making sure they hit the ground on their back and stuff like that.
Yep.
So that was the main part in the ruck area. If you get that right, you're doing it pretty quickly. Then guys in the back like Steve Rogers and Mal Meninga have got a lot more room to move. And once Mal gets going, he's like, yeah.
Oh, mate. I think there was one game I watched. He scored 5 tries against Eastern Suburbs, and they beat them by like 60 points. And he was just an animal, man. It's not fair. Trying to tackle that. Oh, it's funny. So you played 21 games on the tour. One particular game you scored 5 tries against the French side, Roanne. I'm not quite sure how that's pronounced, but and when I had Steve Eller on the show, he told me that you reminded him about that a fair bit, but then he went out and scored 7 tries in a match against French side Aquitaine, which he reminds you about. So, what are your memories of the 5 tries, and what are your memories of the great Zip Zip man, Steve Eller?
Yeah, I remember the 5 tries. I remember we got told that leading up to the France leg of the tour that the referees are very biased against their home teams and stuff like that, and they were. They gave away penalties for. We look at each other and go, "What was that for?" So that made it really difficult. But the club games we played against the local sides, Roanne, they struggled, and we won pretty easily there. In the end, I remember having. We didn't take it all that seriously at the beginning of that particular game. I mean, we turned up. We had the bus trip. We turned up, and then a number of us went and got 3 or 4 hot dogs each. We bought these hot dogs. They just smelt so good, so we all got right into these hot dogs before the game. And I had 4, I think it was, and we had one of the other guys had 5 or 6 of them. And so we took it pretty easy. Lighthearted sort of beforehand, but it just all happened, and they struggled, and in the end, it was halfway through the second half. They said whoever scores kicks their own goal. So I've never kicked a goal in my life. I scored under the post, and then I kicked this, and it just went over the bar, just scraped over right in front. So that was my first and only goal that I scored, but. The provincial sides over there, they struggled.
Mate, what was your kicking style? Was it you a good old fashioned toe poker?
Yeah, toe poke. I was trying to emulate Mick Cronin, but I hurt my toe as I kicked it, but it just scraped over. I just made
it. Oh, legend! I love it. I love it. 1983, you played against my Kiwis at Lang Park. You tasted your only defeat in green and gold, going down 19-12. So, what are your memories of playing the Kiwis? How did you prepare to take on the hard-hitting New Zealanders?
Probably took them too lightly. We had a really good. Arthur Beecham was our coach, and I remember we had a really. The first few days it was just a drinkathon, and we got to go out and have fun and stuff like that, and halfway through the week, we decided to get our heads together and get into it. But we knew it would be a tough match, and I didn't realise how tough it would be, mate. That I running into the forwards, their forward pack, it was just like running into a wall of steel. It was just they were that tough, And then I remember the first run, I hit it up, and I went, "What?" And then from then on, it was just tough game, and they just stayed with us, and I think Joe Rapart, was it Raparty? Ended up scoring in the end to clinch it, and he ended up beating me. I tried to tackle him around these big tree trunk legs, and he got through, and he scored a try. And but they were tough. Every test I played against them was tough as.
Yeah, we didn't win all that many back in the days, and we're still definitely number 2 in my opinion when it comes to New Zealand, Australia,
absolutely.
But we could sneak up on you, on our day if Australia weren't quite on their game. We had some pretty good wins through the 70s and 80s. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. So, did you come up against many Kiwis in the New South Wales Rugby League during your career? And are there any that stood out to you?
Yeah. Fred Arcoy.
Oh, yes.
I should know. Mark Graham was absolutely fantastic. He was brilliant. Olsen Filipano.
Yep.
There's a lot there that when I played at Leeds in England, I played against a few of them too. Kemble.
You Gary Kimball, yep.
Yeah, Gary Kemble is a great player.
Yep.
Yeah, quite a few, and I was always admired their ability and how good they were and how big they were.
You must have come up against Kurt Sorensen somewhere along the line, Kurt and Dane.
I did, yes, yeah, against the
Yeah.
Sorensen brothers. Yeah, my first one was that trial match when Terry Fernley asked if I was ready to play, and I said no. The trial match we played Cronulla at Shark Park. The trial
Okay.
match, and we played against them too. I remember, yeah, I remember how
Yeah.
tough and strong they were. Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, they're legends, absolute legends over here. So 1983, almost a carbon copy of 1982, qualifying well up the ladder, going into the finals, copping a loss to Manly in the major semi-finals, setting you up with a prelim final showdown against the Bulldogs. So were there any moments of panic after that loss, knowing the three-peat might not happen?
Yeah, it's a bit hazy that year, '83, for whatever reasons. But yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, we had to work. It was like we are getting older. We had to work harder and teams wanted to beat us more because we won two in a row, and the third year, it's it's hard backing up the second year, third year, fourth year, and all that sort of stuff because teams just want to
Absolutely.
belt you and beat you and want to win. For them, it's a scalp, for their season to beat the premiers. So
Yeah.
we had to battle that and became harder. But yeah, once the semi-finals come around and we had a couple of little hiccups, but generally we knew, deep down, again, Gibbo kept it all very basic and simplistic, and we knew we could do it if we were switched on.
Yeah, man. And so you did. You got through the Bulldogs, 18-4. You're lining up to play that third straight premiership. So what did Jack Gibson do this time? Was it just business as usual, same strategy? We just
Yeah,
do what we've done all year, boys, and just go out there and do what
yeah,
Parramatta Eels do.
yeah. He kept it the same. He didn't do anything different, anything special. It was just the same stuff again. Waiting for a big speech from him, but he never gave it. He just said, if I have to say something now, I haven't said it through the year, and he did. He did everything through the year. And to get
Okay.
where we were was because of we listened to it earlier, so we didn't have to. There was nothing new he had to say. We just had to do the same thing. So
Right. Okay. So you scored a try in the grand final. You beat Manly 18-6. You've won three grand finals in a row. It's taken literally 40 years for another team to emulate that. How special was that moment? Did you realize at the time just how big that was and how almost impossible that is to achieve?
yeah, I had thoughts. Yeah, it's hard to think back. I had some thoughts that it'd be special to win three in a row, but then I had the thought that if we don't win, there's less pressure on us. If we don't win, we got to the grand final anyway. So we
Yeah.
had that. Well, I had that sort of cushion there in my head. But yeah, again, just guys like Brett Kenny and Sterlo, and they just switched on and just did their thing, and
Yeah.
we just sort of followed suit. And our forwards were always uncompromising. We didn't have any great big forwards, but they just did their job. Jack sort of brought them together really well and built a really good pack that were workers, and they just did their thing.
Right. Okay. Now, speaking of Brett Kenny, he's done everything in the game. He scored two tries in all three of those grand finals. Like, that's incredible. Is it fair to say that he's one of the best players ever? Like,
It's
who
fair.
does that?
It's fair to say that he's a hog. He hogs it. No, he's a special player. Every time I see him, I bring up those. He should have passed it. He should have passed it. But mate. Look, he's a special player. There's things he done that I've never seen anyone do to this day. Just the way that he approached the game and the way that he played the game, and it's such a fun bloke to be with and a good fella. And yeah, um, he was just so natural, the most natural, gifted player that I've ever been involved with or seen. He just had this ability. He was born to play, and
Yeah.
he glided a lot. He glided along the ground. He was just so good.
When it wasn't Brett Kenny, it was you had Peter Sterling on the other side,
Oh,
running the show. And he's like
yep,
one of the only players in history to get a 10 out of 10 in the Rugby League Week player ratings. Back in the
yeah,
80s, it was like 84, 85, somewhere around there. he got like rated 10 out of 10. He scored 3 tries, I think, against Eastern Suburbs one day, and you just
Yeah.
counted them up. It was just impressive.
I
Such an
miss
amazing
the
player.
Rugby League League. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
me too.
That was a great publication. Yeah,
Yeah, mate, I read them from cover to cover every week. I loved
yeah, same.
it, eh?
So
So good. Right, so 1984, you're shooting for 4 grand finals in a row. Now, I had Daryl Broman on the podcast last week, and he said he was originally going to sign with the Eels for 1984
oh
until the
really? Okay.
Bulldogs actually offered him more money. So they offered him 25,000 versus, say, 18,000 the Eels offered. And he played in that grand final against you guys, coming off the
Yeah,
bench, had a blinder for second half, and he believes he was the difference in the game. do you think that maybe if the Eels landed Daryl Broman, things might have been different? There's a
yeah,
question for you.
yeah. Absolutely. That would have been great to have become really good friends with someone like Daryl. I mean, I know Daryl and get on really well with him and stuff like that. But yeah, being closer with him and know what he's really about and stuff. Yeah, but I think he got offered by the Bulldogs. They put a clause into the contract there that they would supply him meat pies after the game as well. So that got him across the line. He was a big eater.
I love it. I love it. So honestly, though, about that grand final, how tough was it losing that fourth one? And it was a close game too. So, was that a tough one to swallow, or were you just like, almost like relief? Yeah, the pressure's off.
Yeah, it's probably a good way of putting it. There was a bit of relief there in that sense. It wasn't. I can't remember being totally upset about that. I'm just happy
Okay.
that we made the fourth grand final in a row, and we got beat by a really good team. Great players. So no, there was no, for me anyway. I know a lot of the other players still, they would have hurt him. But yeah, me it was like a little hurt, but we knew we had a couple of days that we could have a drink as well.
Nothing wrong with a drink. So, 1984, you signed with Leeds, as you said, to play an off season in the UK. So, what was the thought process behind that decision, and how did the opportunity arise?
That was through a fella called John White. He was a manager in those days, managing Peter Sterling and a few other guys. And he had connections over in England, and he came to me saying, "Would you be interested in doing that?" And yeah, and I said, "Yeah." While I'm still young, 24, and it's an opportunity to do that. In those days, their season was our off season, so
Yes.
you could finish the game and then go over and play. And there was a mass exodus of Aussie players that went over, and particular team I played for, Leeds. At
Yeah.
one stage, there we ran on with 11 Australians in the team, 11 Aussies,
Really?
and it was amazing. And it didn't go down too well in regards to some of the
Yeah.
players there, their local players. It was a bit of pill for them to swallow, and I totally understand that. We sort of just took over.
Okay.
But they were all good blokes, good people. We made a lot of good friends there, and stay in touch with them now on Facebook. A few of the guys here and
Nice.
there, and so yeah. But yeah, it just all happened. Able to finish the season and go over there and play, and it was tax-free money too. I shouldn't
Really?
say that, but yeah, the money was put on the Isle of Wight or
Yep.
whatever, and there was a tax-free haven there, and yeah, whatever you signed for, you got in your pocket at the end of the year.
How good. That's a great story in itself. So were you nervous to
Yeah,
go over to test yourself in a different comp, or was it just a case of like you're pretty confident in yourself as a player by then, or
yeah. No, I was excited to do that. A few of the Neil Hunt was one of my friends that
yes.
played for Parramatta, and he went over. He'd been there for half a season, so he I spoke to him a couple of times too, and he said, "Yeah, come over. It's great. It's fantastic." And no, it was took an opportunity for the family to go over. My two boys and my wife, the boy's mother, and it was it was fantastic. And we had Brett Kenny was playing over there, so we all knew
Yeah.
each other, and the families knew each other, and we'd get together and have barbecues and stuff like that. And it was I really enjoyed it. The English people were beautiful, absolutely beautiful, so welcoming, and just really nice people. And they made the effort, worthwhile by being just good, lovely people. So, and we had a fair bit of success. We had the then Great Britain coach was coaching Leeds, Morris Bamford, and we weren't going all that well. And then he got sacked, and then Malcolm Cliff from the Bulldogs, he come over and coached us. So we had an Aussie coach as well. So yeah, and that was we had a great time. We won 14 games in a row. We missed out. We got beat by Brett Kenny's team, Wigan, to go to the Challenge Cup thing.
Yep, that's right.
We got knocked out pretty early. Actually, we met them early in the piece. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was, and the kids loved it. The kids, having a white sort of New Year's Day, and as we went over after Christmas and having snow, playing on New Year's Day in the snow was just an amazing experience. I turned up thinking the game would be called off, but the fans were on the field and they were shoveling the snow away from them so they could see the lines. And since then, it's a heated it's got a underground heating and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that was I loved it. Really enjoyed the time in England.
So speaking of the conditions, how did you cope with those? So I remember I had David Lydiard on, and there was one particular game. He was in a bath at half time, and they were forcing him to get out there for the second half, and he was not keen. He was not happy.
Yeah. The cold was a battle. I mean, in '82 we handled the cold with the Kangaroos, but yeah, this was playing in the snow. I remember my toes were all numb. I couldn't feel them and stuff, and my fingers. But they had this special Vaseline, this heated Vaseline that we could use, and you could rub it all over your legs and your hands and that, and it'd warm you up. And I remember I was putting it all over my body, and the pommies, the locals, they don't use it. They all looking at me going, "Oh, you're soft, you're soft." But it just warmed you up, and it helped. But playing in the snow on New Year's Day, wow, that was just so special. It was just hard running. It was like running in sand, I guess, without the extra footing with the ground once you've pressed on the snow. But yeah, the crowds were just. I remember I scored a try on that particular day, and I was walking back to my position. The guy was taking the goal kick, and they were singing, and I didn't know what they were singing. They were singing, "Give us a wave, give us a wave, give us a wave, Eric." And I had no idea. And as I was getting in position, he said, "They want you to wave." And then I listened to what they were saying, and it was that clear. And I just waved, and the whole place just erupted. It was just amazing, They're just so right into it, and it was so warming and amazing.
Yeah, man. My wife's from England, so I'd very much
wow,
love to get over there and go to a Challenge Cup or a grand final or something, just to be amongst the crowds, like even go to a football match. Like it would be mental good compared to a New Zealand crowd. We have no idea.
Have you been over there?
I haven't yet. No, COVID sort of did its thing, and then long story short, we were supposed to go last year, but I got a job transfer right at the wrong time, and I had to move at a moment's notice down to the South Island from the North Island, and we had to put it on hold. So potentially next year we're going to head over. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! You'll love it. You'll love it.
Oh, mate, I will. And did you have Did you get over there for Christmas and have a white Christmas as well?
No, we went after Christmas. We were there for New Year's, a couple of days before New Year's Eve. So we left on the 27th, I think it was.
Okay.
And we got there just before New Year's Eve. And when it was snowing on New Year's Eve, I said, we looked at the kids and the game won't be on. Well, we had a few drinks, and with Brett Kenny had come around, and Sterlo and John Muggleton, and we had a bit of a sort of a drink. There's no way the game would be on. I woke up and the game was on. Couldn't believe it. But that was so special just to see the snow with falling. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, the reason I asked is my wife, she's just can't get used to barbecues and thongs and stubbies and singlets for Christmas. She's like, what the hell? Everyone's at the beach. What's going on? Like, it's supposed to be white and snowmen everywhere.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Right, let's get back to your Parramatta days. 1986, the Eels go into their 5th grand final in 6 seasons. You're going up against the Bulldogs. How tough was it going into another grand final after missing a grand final the year before? Was there much work and preparation behind the scenes to get the Parramatta machine running again?
Yeah, we had a different coach. We had John Monan, and
Yes.
his style was a little bit different, but he was still a great coach, and he was smart enough to just to do similar things that Jack did and not change things too much. And
Okay.
yeah, I remember that there was a hungriness there that we lost a little bit, I think, in the last couple of years, and we were keen to get back and prove as we were getting older that we could handle things, and the Bulldogs were such a great team, and they had a point to prove as well. So yeah, it's sort of it was good ingredients to finish the year the way it did.
Absolutely. And it wasn't a try fest at all, was it? It was a trialist grand final?
That's right, yeah, 4-2.
Yeah.
Mick had his boots on, which was good, and
Yeah.
yeah, and a couple of penalties, but it was a tough hour game. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember there was nothing in it, and they were sort of pushing right at the end, trying everything to score, and we just sort of our defence just held. So
Yeah.
it was a special win.
That must have been tough, just repelling them on your own line towards the end of the game. You're hanging on by a couple of points, and finally the siren goes off. It must have been an absolute relief. And then you've got the likes of Ray Price and Mick Cronin hanging up the boots, and mate, what a fairy tale finish.
Yeah, that was special, and that was more motivation for us to do it for them. And I
Yeah.
remember running onto the field at the beginning of the game, and I was sort of running past Mick Cronin, and the group was sort of we were coming together before kickoff, and I said, "Let's win this for the Crow and Pricey." And
Yeah.
the Crow turned around straight away and said, "Don't win it for me, you win it for yourself." And I
Okay.
remember that just rang in my ears, but I was motivated to do our best, to send these guys off on a good note,
Yeah.
and as it worked out great.
Must be pretty special winning 4 grand finals. Like, how many players will ever get the chance to do that in their career? I mean, the Panthers are on their way, but
Yeah,
it's taken something special to do that. But it's a very special team, as was yours. So, do you just look back and go, wow, maybe we did something absolutely incredible?
yeah, it does. The more I think about it, and we get together once a year as much as we can, and it's just the camaraderie and the feel that's there. It was very special, very special. And Penrith are such a great team, aren't they? They're such a great
Yeah.
club, and they're doing those things now. And they on their day they look totally unbeatable. So it's not anything's possible for them to win 4 in a row. It's just amazing. But yeah, you need to keep. We had some injuries, but the core of our team sort of stayed, at the right time, and we didn't have, there's some teams that go through these injuries and miss out on some players that that could have played. It would have helped, but we at the right time we kept the core of the team there, and what Jack did with and John Maney did with the forwards, just unassuming, good, hard, tough players, that complemented what we did as well. So it was really special.
Absolutely, man. And now, out of all the tries you've scored, there's one particular try I'm sure you get asked about a lot. And being my opportunity to speak to you, I have to ask you about the try you scored against the Bulldogs, where you beat just about half the bloody team. That lovely inside run all the way to the line. You beat about 5 guys, I think, on the way to the line. 5 or 6 guys. You score an incredible try. I'm sure anyone who knows who you are knows the try I'm talking about against the Bulldogs. Mate, can you talk us through that try and how that bloody happened?
Yeah, look, it come out of nowhere. There was a player that came to the blind side, and Steve Ella had the ball, and I think Chris Mortimer or Peter Mortimer grabbed him. So I was right next to the sideline, and Steve Ella got swung around by the arm, and he sort of did a full circle and swung around, and he came around, and the ball then he hit me, and I was right. We'd run out of room. I was right on the sideline, so he's hit me. So all the defence was coming one way, and then all of a sudden he hit me, and I ran the opposite way. So this little laneway sort of just opened up as players were sort of running across to stop me, and there was just a couple of little steps that I had to do to sort of get away, but they were coming 100 miles per hour that way, and I was
Yeah,
going the opposite way. So it helped, And it was for a try like that to be scored. It was if it was going to be scored, it was going to be scored on that day because it was a high scoring game. I think we ended up winning 38-28. So there was a lot
Okay.
of compared to what other games we played against the Bulldogs, the defence wasn't there this particular game. So there was a lot of tries scored, and it just opened up. And I was looking at maybe passing it to someone at the end, but I just happened to get through, and everything worked out okay.
Mate, I'll never forget the commentary, just the commentator was going nuts, the crowd went mental. Like, did you realise like just how many people you'd beaten on the way to the line at the time?
Um, no, I didn't. I mean, I saw it afterwards and stuff, but I knew that it was totally against the grain, and
Yeah.
it probably shouldn't have happened. I should have got tackled somewhere along the line there, but it just, as I said, it just sort of opened up. But it felt special, and it sort of pushed us along to sort of break away from them because it was a high scoring game.
Yeah, mate, it's one of the great tries. You should be very proud of that one.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Mate. And so before we finish up, is there any particular memory from your career that sticks out above the rest? One thing that you just really loved about your career or a special moment.
Mate, every time I ran onto the footy field with those players, it was, I'd pinch myself and think, especially afterwards, thinking about it, how special they were, and I was lucky enough to be a part of that as we were coming through juniors, that it would all fall into place like that. Always think about in '77 when Parramatta just it was a 7-all draw, and then they got flogged against St George. Was it '77? Yeah. And there's a replay, and then they end up
Yeah.
getting beaten. And then again in '79, I think it was.
Okay.
I always think that if they won one of those games, it would have made things different for the group of players that were coming through that I was involved with.
Yeah.
They could have won that game. There was nothing in it. They could have had a little bit of luck, and guys like Johnny Cock and Jeff Gerard and all those guys, Ronnie Hilditch and that, could be revered like we are.
Yeah.
And it might have changed our, sliding doors thing. It might have changed our trajectory going that way. But the two times they were in the grand final, they just got beat, and
Yeah.
we were lucky that well, I would have loved them to have won at least one of those or both, and it would have, who knows, it would have just changed things for us. So I think about that a lot, and how lucky we were to be in those situations after
Yeah.
what, and that team doesn't get thought about much at all. We go to functions, and I think those guys should be here at this function, and they should be thought about, because they paved the way. They paved the way for us,
Absolutely.
and it was such an important thing. And they were some great players, and I stay in touch with some of the guys there, and but yeah, that hits me every now and then. That's a really important part. Just to play the game and be lucky enough to be involved with so many good players. And the try that means more to me than anything, and it just sticks in my mind, is the St George final. We had to win the game in '84 to make the grand final against the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
All the lead up work was done by Sterlo and Brett. All I had to do was run into the corner. We won the game. They were beating us all game. It was a low scoring affair, and we won, and that try got us into the grand final. But I remember who tackled me. Steve Rogers tackled me,
Yeah.
and he had never won a grand final. He'd never. I don't think he ever got into a grand final. I'm not sure,
He
but
might have played with the Sharks when they had a draw and then lost the rematch,
oh,
potentially.
okay, he was in that. Okay, well, yeah,
Yeah.
and I was. He's such a good bloke, and I got to know him really well on the '82 Kangaroo tour, and he was one of my favourite players. And I looked up to him, and to know that he was on my legs, and I dragged over and scored the try. My first thought was how sorry I felt for him,
Oh, really?
and then the elation was, we got in the grand final again. But for me it was, I felt sorry for Steve. He was such a great bloke and such a great player.
Mate, that's awesome that you paid homage to the teams that came before you in the grand finals, because like in New Zealand, we've had two Warriors grand final sides, and they're basically our pinnacle, Warriors teams as it currently stands, and they're the big dogs of our history so far, two
Yeah,
grand final appearances. So I get it. It's
yeah,
it's real special when your team actually makes a final, even if you lose. Yeah.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, man. Right, I got three really quick questions for you to finish off. Who do you think's going to win the NRL in 2024?
Well, it's probably more open this year than it has been the last few years. The Storm are coming back, obviously.
Yep.
At the moment, it's between the Storm and Penrith, and on their day, the Roosters can do things. Other than that, I can't see anyone else sort of giving them too much trouble on the day when they're firing. Those three will be hard to beat. And yeah, I think Penrith on their day are such a professional club. They'll go
Yeah.
away again, maybe.
Okay, let's lock Penrith in for four in a row. Okay, last two. What is your favourite TV show or series of all time?
Oh wow. I remember my eldest son Eric Jr. He said, sit down and watch this program called The Office, the British
Oh, yep.
version of
Yeah,
The
the British
Office.
one. Rick Gervais. Yeah.
Rick Gervais, mate, and I watched the first couple, and I thought this is ridiculous, but you get to love it, and I've never seen comedy wise. There's nothing like it. He absolutely killed it, and
Yeah.
for me, yeah, The Office was just an amazing thing to watch.
It's funny you should say that, because me and my wife started watching that one recently, and it was so bad that it was good. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
he's such a
Oh,
crap like character,
yeah,
but it's great.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love it. Awesome, man. All right, last question. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm on a diet at the moment, but you just can't go past a pepperoni pizza.
Mate, that's the
That's
first time I've had pepperoni pizza for an answer. I love it.
Yeah. My mum used to cook a beautiful bread dumpling with goulash, and that's second. But the pizza is always yeah. I get excited when I order a pizza. It's not much these days, but yeah.
Oh, mate, that's a great answer. Love it. Eric Grothe locks in pepperoni pizza. How good. Well, thanks, man, for coming on the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast, going back in the day with me. It's an absolute treat to hear the stories of your career, mate.
Thanks,
It's a
mate. My
real honour
pleasure.
for me.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Mate, thanks, man. So thanks, everyone, for watching. This has been Eric Grothe. I've been Dave, your host, and we'll see you next time for Kickoff.
Full time.